Sphagnum moss experiments. So I just got a bag of live Wisconsin, or it's not live, but it's freshly harvested Wisconsin sphagnum moss. And I have to say that if you look up North American sphagnum moss on the internet, it has some terrible reviews about how crappy it is. But this stuff looks really, really nice. And I just want to compare it to the other two types of sphagnum moss that I have access to. So this is Wisconsin spag right here. And then this right here is Chilean sphagnum moss. It's very, small, not very long grained. I find that it breaks down very quickly. Maybe a year in a pot here. And then in here I have some New Zealand long grain sphagnum moss. That is my current favorite moss. So you can see it has much longer grains. Right, so this is what it looks like. Obviously this was dried in a bale, and then I get it. So here's some better comparison for it. Right, so here is New Zealand, and then here is the Chilean, and then here is the Wisconsin, and of course it looks super fluffy in comparison. We'll put a little bit more for better comparison. Now the Wisconsin's pretty dirty. It's got a lot of stuff in it. Usually the Chilean comes with leaves and stuff. The New Zealand stuff is really clean. And I mean, you can just pick it out. But the fun thing about the Wisconsin is that it has these seed heads on it, and they feel pretty firm. So hopefully there's still seeds in them. And I am going to try to grow some of my own moss from this, and we'll see how it works, because some of this stuff is still green, so possibly I could actually grow it. I also got some sphagnum moss seeds. These are the sphagnum moss seeds that I just got, and I will try to use some of these. I found seeds in my New Zealand before, but they've never germinated. And when I squished them, like see right here, when I squished them, then I don't know, they're not hard. So it's like they're empty or something. So I'm gonna try those seeds right there. Oh, except Pinto's dumped them all over the floor, you jerk. Stop, Pinto! So the current plan is to take this lattice insert. I'm gonna put moss in it, and this will let me water through it, or I will do it as soon as Pinto gets out of the tray. So there'll be a delay in this now. Okay, but the plan, once Pinto has left the tray, is I'm gonna fill it with sphagnum moss and those seeds, which I have laboriously collected off the floor now. And then I still have a lot of the plastic domes that I can use to keep the humidity up on it while I wait the supposed 2 to 3 weeks while it germinates. Oh good, I can start now. Pinto's left the container. Okay, so I have prepared my tray. Everything I have read on the internet says that you're supposed to put some kind of medium down, and then you're supposed to go through and find the live spag bits or just dead spag bits and put it on the media. Don't know if we really need to have medium or not, since people use chopped up sphagnum moss or sphagnum peat moss to self-start seeds. But I'm going to provide medium in half of my tray, and then half I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to put seeds on both. So this is actually ProMix on this side, which is part sphagnum peat moss, and I will just find green bits and put it in. Okay, so I have gone through the bag and just tried to find some live bits of the pinto, live bits of the moss, and just plant some in here. And now we will add the seeds. So half the seeds go over here, and half the seeds go over here. We will pray it's going to work, and then we will lightly mist everything so as not to disturb everything. Our hand sprayer. Then we will dome it, and we will see if the sphagnum grows or not. So I have grown this in a glass dish, and it's died, and I've grown it in my terrarium. I got the 3-colored sphagnum moss like 2 years ago, and it died, didn't take. And so I'm going to try this method because I can water this, and then I can drain it out by lifting the tray up. So it can be really wet, but I can dry it out easily if it turns out that it shouldn't be that wet. So we'll see how this goes. I think it needs more water than it actually has. So there is my, I guess this would be called attempt number 3 at growing my own sphagnum moss. A dome. So this will protect it from pinto and keep the humidity up. And I'm going to put it in my 3-season sunroom, where it will be between 50 and 70 degrees, which apparently is the recommended temperature range for growing sphagnum moss, at least until it freezes, and then it'll be too cold. Though this being North American sphagnum moss, I'm pretty sure it can freeze and come back if it's established, since the bogs in Wisconsin must certainly freeze. So after 3 weeks, I've been watering this once a week, so this was my 3rd watering. None of the seeds that I sowed in this tray have sprouted. So they haven't sprouted on the side which has the Pro Mix underneath, and they haven't sprouted on the side which is just the Wisconsin sphagnum moss. But the green pieces that I put in from the bag are still green. So I think it might be worth it to go back through the Wisconsin sphagnum moss that I got and find any other pieces that are green and add them to this. So this is an update on my Wisconsin sphagnum moss growing attempt. I guess I've now had this about 2 months, and on the left side is the moss that's on the Pro Mix, and then on the right side is the moss that's just bare in the tray. I've been growing the moss inside or under a plastic humidity dome to keep the humidity up. And the moss that I left in the bag that I got it in basically is now all brown, but as you can see, this moss that's been growing underneath the humidity dome in this tray is still green, and there are little tiny new growths right here. Those are new, like right there in the middle, on both sides of the tray. So here on the Pro Mix side, a tiny little bit of new growth. There's new growth here as well. And I have it on both sides, so it doesn't really seem to matter right now whether I have the Pro Mix or not. but keeping the humidity up seems to be what was really important for getting new growth out of this. Now I can't tell, I sprinkled seeds in this and I can't tell if any of the seeds have sprouted on this new growth, but definitely the bits that were alive are still alive and seem to be putting out some growth. I think using this dome to keep the humidity up on the Wisconsin sphagnum moss is the key to success. High humidity. Look at all those green growths on both sides of the tray. And now I just need to make it to summer and see what happens when it gets hot.